Hi everyone, I'm Dan from JazzComposersPresent.com, an online space where composers, musicians, and listeners come together to celebrate the music we love. I'm joined today by John La Barbera, Grammy-nominated composer and arranger and professor emeritus of music at the University of Louisville. His works have been recorded and performed by Buddy Rich, Woody Herman, Count Basie, and Dizzy Gillespie, among others. John is here to show us how to use literature to shape a piece of music.
Really honored to be here and add a little bit of something I've known for quite some time, but I don't think I've ever presented it in a formal fashion this way. I've used it with my students. And it's basically the shape of music. And I came up with the idea that the shape of music is very much like that of water. It's the form of the vessel in which it's contained. Shape of water goes way back to, ancient Greece. We've talked about that. But I've tried to put it into a musical context. Ever since I was a youngster, I was an avid reader. I practically lived in the library. And when my brothers and I started getting interested in jazz, I read everything I could find that related to it, because there are really no books, method books like we have today in the 50s. All we could find would be those Benny Goodman Hot Licks and Artie Shaw Hot Licks books, and with a couple of cliches in there. But luckily, our school library subscribed to Downbeat, believe it or not. This is in the 50s. For some odd reason, I think it was because our band director subscribed to the Columbia Record Club, and I think that was a perk you got with it, but I'm not positive about that. But we devoured every issue. And I was, being the one who read a lot, I was also the brother that copied the tunes off the recordings. We had our own little quintet or quartet, and I would copy off the Horace Silver or Art Blakey arrangements, and we'd play them, and we'd learn by playing those and seeing what these guys did. There wasn't much I could find about arranging and composing, but I remember vividly seeing something about the climactic curve or a solo, either of a chart or a solo. It stuck in my mind in Downbeat and led me to analyze some of the combo charts, like the Horace and Silver and Art Blakey stuff. The format was pretty formulaic, like head, send-off, solos, trade fours, head, and tag, something like that, which pretty much can be used as a big band or a large ensemble arrangement format. Since I've always been intrigued by great literature created over the centuries, and early in my career, it would have been, very early in my career, like probably in the 60s, late 60s, it came to me that the techniques and habits of these great writers of prose might be adapted to our work habit and our art form. Ernest Hemingway's work habit seemed to resonate with me as I stared at those blank score pads. Write the truest sentence you know. Get started with one true statement. Know what to admit, and especially helpful, leave off where you know you're going to pick up tomorrow, the next day. The second person there, Margaret Atwood, and she says, read what you want to write. If you're going to write big band arrangements or orchestral arrangements, you have to be aware of what they are and listen to them. And Virginia Woolf, the last person, said, read as much as you can. So for us, it would be listen as much as you can to the idiom in which you choose to create. That's really important. And I found that with students and in general writers today who've come up over the last 20 years, they really have had no focused time like I did in the 50s to sit down and just listen to music. We didn't have the distractions or all of the they are distractions, all of the things that require our time today. So if you can set yourself to just listen in the idiom which you want to write, I think it's very helpful. Now, other techniques and adages from literature and theater, I found I have a parallel in our art form, and one I became aware of very early on, and probably everyone has heard this, maybe not though, it's Chekhov's gun. Chekhov, around the 1860s, he stated, if a knife or a gun or a bomb or something is introduced in the first act of a play, it's got to go off before the end of the play or the second act. This could be equated with introducing a unique device in a composition arrangement, like a unique introduction melody or a counter melody or a meter change for a few measures in the beginning of the work. If you don't rationalize that placement, like if you don't reintroduce that change of time signature again, then it has no merit. So don't do it. The same can hold true for unique rhythms, modal changes, and like that. Yes, good old Chekhov. He really knew what he was talking about. And I've seen many a student arrangement where there's been a time change in the first 18 bars or 16 bars or whatever, and never to be seen again. And I mentioned, what to admit. Bill Holman, he observed that as he got older, um, you become your best editor. You don't even put the stuff in. Before you even put that extraneous stuff in a chart, you edit it out yourself. And you only put the most important, true um, melodies or counterlines or devices that need to be there. So music and language share similar shapes and have a common evolution. Both stories and songs were communicated orally before the written construct was developed. I know when I went on the road, you learned to improvise by the old timers sharing those secrets with you. They weren't committed to the page. It's doubtful we'll ever agree on the origins of the first written word, but I think most all of us will agree that Guido of Arezzo, he was an 11th century Benedictine monk, was the first to codify music and notation and change our musical world forever and ever. Good old Guido. Well, since Guido's discovery and his invention of music notation, uh, composition and literature have grown in parallel and to become what we know today as art and composition, art or literature and composition, I should say. If we continue with the composition of literature with the art of composing and arranging, they follow comparable paths of oral development and verbal dynamics, shapes, outlines to accomplish their goals. Having said that, I should say simply that those two art forms of literature and composing, arranging, really have very, very similar outlines for their successful, outcome. Um, Gustav Freytag, who around 1860, it's about the same time as Chekhov's gun, he realized that simply put, all great literature followed a predictable curve of events, usually a 5-act structure. That makes for a successful story. This became known as Freytag's pyramid, and whether it's a short story, a TV script, a play, or a novel, they all follow the same shape or outline. Script writers, authors, they all are aware of this. And when I became aware of this, it opened up a whole new world of understanding for me, seeing an actual working concept of what I knew instinctively. There are a lot of illustrations of this pyramid online on YouTube, so I won't bother you with that. There's one very, very I think very what's the term I'm looking for? An excellent example of Freytag's pyramid using Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window movie and showing all of the aspects of his pyramid outlined in that particular screenplay. So Freytag's 5 elements of a successful story are the exposition, bringing in the plot, the inciting incident, the rising action, the climax, and the falling action, and denouement or resolution. He calls it denouement. This 5-act pyramid or curve is almost exactly like what we do when we compose a symphonic work, a jazz work, whatever. String quartet. These basic 5 elements are what are necessary to make it successful. Our tools used in writing, the exposition, all of these, the action, the crises, climax, falling action, they all translate into components of arranging and composition that we know. And I don't say jazz, I say composition and arrangement because they can apply to any style. And here's a parallel of Freytag's original and our jazz. There's our melody statement, and we can have our solo, send off, interlude, and then the climax, shout chorus, falling action, and denouement, the coded or ending. And these are all components that everyone is aware of in arranging. And they don't necessarily have to be there in that order, but that's pretty much what we do. And that same pyramid in a microcosm is what we do within an 8-bar sax solo or a 16-bar sax solo, or within an improvised solo. It's that same pyramid. We expose our initial ideas and we excite it and we bring it up to the climax, and the falling action, we bring our story back out. When I started thinking about this and started using these techniques, it became so much easier to plan an arrangement and to plan what I'm going to do with a given melody. Now, there's some excellent books, 2 great books that you should be aware of. Rayburn Wright, who I studied privately with, did an excellent job of analyzing Sammy Nistico and Bobby Brookmeyer and Thad Jones arrangements using a handwritten graph and basically the curve and the shape of those arrangements. And then Rick Lawn did an excellent job as well, because Rick was a student of Ray's as well. Rick uses waveforms from probably Pro Tools or whatever to show that same thing. They're both excellent texts for the student today to really have their faces in all the time. So to wrap it up, when you start approaching your next arrangement, stop and think about what I've just given you in a microcosm. You should know how to edit the extraneous stuff. Make sure you know where you're going with the storyline, and go back and look at the pyramid a number of times as you go through your arrangement and do your writing, and see how you place everything compared with that pyramid. And it can be very helpful, especially for those just getting started in this game, so to speak.
Thanks for watching today's mini lesson. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Drop any questions, comments, or suggestions for future videos in the comment section down below. To watch our full-length events and participate in live Q&As with our presenting artists, head over to jazzcomposerspresent.com. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.